Hello, welcome to this speedrun of Prison Architects that I will also be providing commentary for. So in this game you play as a prison architect and you have to build prisons. There's 5 campaign levels and you have to complete objectives to finish the campaign levels. This first one is about death row. I have to build an execution facility. Fastest way of doing that is by first building the building and then waiting for my staff to build it. However, I can appoint, like, oh, put a bed here or put a door there. I can do that before the building is finished. Once the building is finished, I can start assigning the actual cell block and the actual execution room, and then I put some deliveries in the top, just north of the execution building, so that my workers will idle there instead of all the way on the other end of the map. And the reason I do that is because at some point it turns out that the electricity cables have not been placed down. So I'm doing that right now. And by having my workers nearby and also the resources nearby, it means that they will cut down on some walking time. So now I'm just waiting for them to place the cables. So while they do that, I put all the cell doors on always open. And this will help with the very last level actually, which will be here, but that one execution facility will carry over. Alright, so turn on the power and test the execution chair. It all works fine, so we get a cutscene where the guy gets executed, but we skip it, of course. Alright, next level, there's a big fire in a prison. We get 2 fire teams, we have to strategically place them so that they can actually cover all the fires. Once I've done that, I will spawn a whole lot of workers so that they can take down the old burnt kitchen and canteen while the fire is still going, and I won't have to wait for that later. While the firemen are extinguishing the fire and the builders are taking down the building, I'm just going to turn the holding cell and the storage room into a kitchen and a canteen, because later objectives in this level require me to build a kitchen and a canteen, because they just burned down. And of course it's faster to turn an already existing room into one than it is to build a whole new building. So that's what I'm doing. The holding cell is now a canteen, and the placement of the tables, I need to put so many tables and benches and then it will work. Turns out I didn't place my 5 firefighters that well, so I had to babysit them a little just to get rid of that one last fire zone. Alright, now that's that done. I have to do some more objectives, like start some therapy groups and stuff like that. And then it turns out that I have forgotten to assign patrol routes in the yard. And we will see me fix that later. There we go. So here's some patrol routes. And now that I've done that, the level will actually advance. So I get a few calls from our CEO. He has a lot of stuff to complain about. And we just have to do a shakedown. Alright, and now that that is done, we did the shakedown before the cutscene happened, so that the staff or the guards will search everyone during the cutscene. And now we just wait for that. We have to wait for some calls, and there we go. Next level. Alright, so in this level there is a big riot going on and also a fire. So first thing we do is take care of the fire before it spreads. Second thing we do is we open all rooms to the public. No locks, so that the prisoners can escape, because what's the fastest way of stopping a riot? It's by giving the rioters what they want. So you can see that, and if you could hear, I removed the sound, but if you could hear this really annoying phone call. But I'm not going to take it, because that phone call will spawn some art guards and they will shoot the prisoners, and I don't want that. I took it now though. I think I have, because I tore down this wall, so now the prisoners can go through here as opposed through the main entrance. And look at that, they all escape. And that actually counts as fixing the riot. Solving the riot, rather. Ending the riot. Words are difficult. Alright, so the Ryan has ended, and now it turns out that the CEO who kept calling us is being held hostage. We just have to take some phone calls. Sometimes this can soft lock and phone calls want to come in. You can see in the bottom right corner, oh no, the calls, yeah, I soft locked, but turns out I didn't. And then I can end the level. And there we go. Next level is Conviction. Again, I have to do some stuff. I have to build a whole new wing of prison. So the fastest way of doing that is to just spam some cells using the quick build. And while my staff is doing that, building that, I just do some other tiny things that need to happen. I need more staff, of course, to finish building. I need all this to be done by 8 AM the next morning. Top right corner you can see the in-game time as well as the splits time. But the in-game time is what matters here. So it's currently 6 PM, so I have 12 in-game hours to make sure that I get everything done. Including I'm building a classroom, but I have to wait for some research to finish. So I'm just doing that right now. There we go, we place a classroom in the middle of this hallway because again, turning existing buildings into new ones is better. Clearing the canteen, it's going to serve as our visitation room. And visitation is the big problem on this level because I have to have 20 visitors in order to finish the level. And I am completely at the mercy of the game whether that will happen or not. So I'm turning the generator room into a workshop, place the required workbenches there, all simple, put a yard, it's also what I want, shower, you can put a shower outside, you don't need a building for that. Okay, I want some phones in the yard, and now that that is done, oh, I need an export room. Now that that is done, we wait. And I click the bang up button so that everyone will be going to their cells, and it's just a desperate attempt at making people unhappy, hoping that they will receive more visitors. Because, hey, I'm unhappy, can you please come over, dear family of mine? It doesn't seem to work. And it seems to just be pure RNG. And then I set these cell blocks to be restricted to certain prisoners only, prisoners that I don't have, so that they will all hang out in the holding cell, and that reduces some traveling time. If it turns out though that there's going to be a riot, visitors will stop coming in, so I don't want to make them too unhappy. So put down some guards to make sure that prisoners won't be escaping through the extra door that I have built in the north there to reduce the traveling time for the visitors. So the canteen is empty. So now I'm placing all the visitor tables. You don't need to leave any room in between. People can walk over the tables just fine. However, I will wait a bit before assigning that room as actual visitation instead of a canteen, just because again it feels like it helps to do it when needed as opposed to doing it early. But again, I don't understand this level, nobody understands this level. It seems to be just complete RNG, but there are some clues hinting that it isn't. But again, none of this is proven. It's difficult to prove it without decompiling the code. I've looked into that, but I couldn't find anything relevant. Alright, so now that I have completed all the objectives, I'm taking some phone calls and I'm waiting until like 10 AM in-game before I assign this room. I think it's 10 AM. I might even wait until 11. It seems like I'm waiting for 11 AM before I assign this room. There we go, and now my visitors are coming in. There they are. So doing a quick count, and I think it's 19 out of 20. And now I am like, oh my god, I am going to lose this round to RNG, but obviously I didn't, because this is the world record as of right now. Let's take a look at the rating, 85%, that means we had, 90%, so it's, yeah, 19 out of 20, 95%. But it turns out here's a new family, and I am cheering. And now it turns out that the prisoner, whose family that is, doesn't show up, but he does in the end anyway. So it's currently 3 PM in game, and this is actually really fast for this level. Normally that last visitor shows up at like really close to the end of the day, and if you're unlucky he won't show up at all until the next day, so you have to wait overnight. But not this time. Alright, and then the last level, you can see the execution room that I built earlier on the left there, and the rest of the prison has been demolished. So I turned the execution room into a canteen and a kitchen, and the only goal for this level is to have 100 inmates. And that's it. And that's all you have to do. But I need to do 2 things in order to get inmates. First, I could just wait for the game to deliver me inmates, but I can speed up the process by building beds, lots and lots of beds. But I need to do that indoors, otherwise it won't work. So I'm just building a massive, giant common room, which costs a lot of money, and I need money, so I'm just going to complete some government grants in order to get that money. So 1 grant requires me to build a yard and a shower and a canteen, and that will get me some money to place more beds. So you can see that building is being built very slowly, but here's some grants. And then once these buildings are completed, I will have some more money. Alright, so another thing on this level is your prisoners won't actually try to escape your prison unless you actually put them in the prison. So by leaving the prisoners on the front door, at the front door on the porch, before, like right after they've been delivered by the bus, and just leaving them there instead of taking them in, they won't ever try to escape, but it still counts towards my total prisoner count. So what I do is, any guards that would take care of the prisoners, I just lock them inside the yard. So just look at that building and being built very slowly. I want to make sure that the building is finished before I start putting the beds. And this entire run is just remembering to not forget one of these tiny little objectives that you need to complete. Alright, so the building is nearly done. I'm placing the first beds. And then once the building is done, I can assign the building to be a big prison block. Turns out my workers aren't hurrying up, so it's taking a bit longer than I needed, but it doesn't matter because the prisoners won't come in until 10 AM. More beds. So in the past, this level, we would have to take like 5 overnight waits in order to get the amount of prisoners we need. But then they released a patch that increased the influx of prisoners if you had a lot of open space left, like unused prison cells. So now, instead of just waiting around on this level doing nothing, I actually built all these beds. And that will increase demand for prisoners. Or increase supply for prisoners, rather. Not that that makes any sense, but it does. And now I think it's only 2 overnight waits. It's still a really long level, so if this was a marathon, you would just read some donations. But yeah, each day takes like 4 minutes, if I am not mistaken. So you have to wait for 8 minutes on this level, if not more. Just look at those prisoners, man. There's something really satisfying about this game. Or not the prisoners, the workers. There's something satisfying about this game, just watching the workers build. When this guy's plopped down some beds in the room. Just walking back and forth, dragging beds all over. And if you look in the top, at the very top in the middle, you can see the prison capacity. Right now I have 8 out of 518 prisoners. And with each bed that is placed, the capacity increases by 2. Up until a certain limit, depending on the size of that building over there. But like having a capacity of like 400 should be more than enough. But if you can get it higher, then maybe it's possible to only have to wait 1 night instead of 2. But that doesn't seem to be possible. It doesn't seem like I can get the amount of beds in place before the first shipment of prisoners comes in. And each time there's a shipment of prisoners, that determines how many prisoners there will be the next day. So here's the research menu. At this point I'm just messing around, because there's not much left to do other than wait. At this point I'm just looking at grants that I can complete, but I don't think there's any at this point. I've done all the easy and quick ones. It looks like the prison has capped out at 680 prisoners. I'm just putting down an extra bed to see if that is because of the amount of beds, and turns out it isn't. I've put more beds than the building can or is supposed to have. So at this point it really is just waiting, so I'm clicking on some of these prisoners and just reading what they've done. And sometimes these prisoners have an interesting story. But none of these seem to have any interesting story. This guy's story is just high. At a young age, David discovered that the world is full of sticky things, including industrial glues. Shortly after these discoveries, David made a new discovery. So these are all user-submitted biographies, and they are appropriate because they're all checked by the prison architect developers for any sort of inappropriate things. But that's a nice little story for you. This guy was supposed to do something with super glue that wasn't quite legal, so up to your imagination to figure out what that was. I absolutely love how it says sack instead of fire for some of the staff, or for all the staff. Alright, 6 AM, the next shipment will come in. Shipment? I don't believe that's the right word for people, but the next batch of prisoners, I accidentally paused my video. The next batch of prisoners will come in at 8. Alright, so 8 AM, here's the prison bus. And in the top left corner you can see that the next batch of prisoners will be 121, which is more than enough to finish the level. None of these prisoners have an interesting story. Here we go. A distant cousin of Eddie Darwin, who is a distant cousin of Charles Darwin. He tried to solve evolution by beating up endangered animals and see if their skin hardened. Unfortunately, he was later arrested for animal abuse. So yeah, being prisoner architect, you're going to get stories like that, but it's all fine. Raised on morals, respect and self-defense, it's said he didn't think twice when he shot and injured the intruder who entered his home. Apparent through years of the legal system, he'd have been better off committing murder. Sentenced to 25 years. And then that doesn't match with the actual in-game sentence times. I was going to say something. Oh yeah, I accidentally paused my video, so my audio might be desynced a bit, but I skipped forward by a few seconds to fix that, so hopefully it's not too bad. Just appointing them all as super max security to know which prisoner I have read the story of and which I haven't. Do not peer too deeply into his beard, lest you see things too awful for mortal man to see, like some really old cornflakes. As his social life kept getting in the way of gaming, so Sean murdered his friends and family so he could play prisoner architect uninterrupted. There's about a couple of thousands of users submitted by prisoners' names. Some of them have stories. I'm sure if a lot of people were to see this run, that one of them must see a story they wrote, right? Probably not. That chance is really small, but one can hope. One can wish. It will be funny if you just randomly stumbled upon somebody's story and they happen to be watching. Silent type who enjoy long walks on the beach and stabbing people. Most likely the reason he is in jail. He is waiting, he is watching. That's scary. It's already night, by the way, so we won't have much of a wait left. I could read the story, but I think I'll close the story soon, so I won't be able to read it all. I think that's one of the last prisoners, nope. A teenager who thought he had it easy when he was younger, when he was accepted into a new school due to the fact of him and his father moving house. He made new friends with the wrong people, convincing him that drugs was okay. It's not. Look where he is now, in prison. Alright, 1 AM, that means 6 more in-game hours, and each in-game hour is like 25 seconds, maybe less, I don't remember. And once it is 8 AM and the buses have started coming in. One last thing we need to do is click on a Polaroid picture, and then that marks the end of the run. So as you can see, these prisoners are just sitting nicely on the porch, on the front porch, not doing anything. They could just run off if they wanted, but they don't. As soon as I figured that out, I was like, hey, and this game has to be speedrun. Because it's just such an easy exploit to do as well. It makes this level not very interesting, but... And hey, there's a guy called S in the prisoners there. That's not me though. At least I don't think it's me. Alright, 7 AM, one more in-game hour. Alright, and then the Polaroid spawns by the white flowers, I believe. So here's the bus with prisoners. Each time a bus spawns, the prisoners increase. So 75 prisoners, 83 prisoners, 91 prisoners, and then the next bus, 99. 107. So we get a phone call. There we go. And then there's a picture, and that is the end of the run. And then the last 6 minutes of this video are the final cutscene and the credits. I will not be commentating over those. So thank you for watching, and until next time, bye bye.